we're going to have we said there's no fire here, but we're going to have a bit of a fireside chat. I'm going to bring up a very dear friend of mine who's flown in all the way from Mexico City. He wasn't going to come here today, but I was like, just come here. We'll talk about high ticket sales. People will have a lot of questions for you. So we're going to sit up here. And this guy actually met me immediately after I met Nate on the bus. And he might tell you a little bit about that. He's got an incredible voice, one of the best voices I've ever heard, actually. I was telling him for years, you need a podcast, mate. You'll see what I mean in a moment. But my dear friend Kerry over here, he took a company from doing pretty much nothing in sales, a high-ticket coaching company, to doing $2.4 million a year, himself closing most of those sales, to then moving over to a different company in a different similar coaching space, and took it from doing $300,000 a month to $1.5 million a month, with him creating the sales systems, with him growing the sales team, and knowing absolutely, I would say almost everything about high ticket sales in the online industry. So we're going to come up here, we're going to have a bit of a chat back and forth. He's going to also speak during the weekend, but if you have any pressing questions around your organization, anything that's going on within sales for you at the moment, his speciality is objection handling, and also scripts and frameworks that you can use when doing sales calls. So we're going to have to bring the chairs with us as well, Kerry. Give a big round of applause for Mr. Kerry James. Yeah.
Really cool to be here. Oh, okay.
Put this on.
What is this thing?
No, just.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, really cool to be here because, yeah, like Ryan said, I met him years ago, right after he met a guy named Nate. We were being auctioned off at it was a runway show. We were both, pretending to be models of some sort. And yeah, we were both going down the runway, or he hadn't yet gone down the runway, but it was a charity event where we were being auctioned off to go. It's like kind of like a date to spend time, and then like they give the money to the charity. And yeah, it was a bit dodgy, but I won't go into the details. But anyways, that's when I met Ryan here, and we were actually teaching English at the same company in Saigon. And yeah, it was, just trying to scrape pennies together, trying to figure out, we were hustling, both really into sales, both really into money, travel, freedom, that kind of thing. And yeah, he had just we met at this runway show, and he was like, yeah, let's get coffee, let's hang out. There's this really cool thing I want to tell you about. So I was like, cool, sounds good. We got auctioned off. A few days later, we take our motorbikes through the streets of Saigon and get to a little cafe with some little chairs, and we sit down. And I barely know the guy then. I'm like, we're new friends, And he starts talking about how he had just gotten back from this trip. He met a guy named Nate. He's talking about how all the water everywhere was poison, and we were all dying. And also that you can literally manifest mountains of wealth. You just got to manifest it. And he was carrying around Rhonda Byrne's book, The Secret. Yeah. And I was like, this guy's absolutely nuts. Yeah. Let's be friends. Let's talk about business and let's stay in touch. And then yeah, from that was like 2016. Yeah, 2016. We did stay in touch. I did I went into the world of high ticket sales. He went into the world of Enagic, also high ticket sales. But we've kept in touch over the years, and I've been kind of seeing what he's been doing while I've been kind of evolving in this other direction. And it's like, at first I was like, okay, this is great. I got a machine a long time ago. I've been drinking the water for a while. And then I started seeing the business applications of this and started hearing the stories that Ryan would tell me. And then I just started to get more and more blown away. At first I was like, this guy's a nut job. And then I was like, wait a second, he's actually onto something here. And then the people that he would introduce me to, like we met in Bangkok, we met in Mexico, we met all over the world. And I keep being introduced to these people, and they're just like next level human beings that are doing what you guys do. And then yeah, so Since then, I've gone on, I've worked, like he was saying, I've worked with various coaches in various industries and sold products everywhere from $1,000 up to over $100,000 per deal. It's a different ballgame going through these different kinds of sales cycles. And you know, we went from, at the beginning, I was doing just like one-off coaching sessions, and then that would turn into coaching packages, and then that would turn into packages of coaching packages. There's always a way to, you know, make the stakes bigger. And seeing what Ryan has been doing, we've been speaking with Lisa, with different members of different teams here. It's like the applications for Enagic are absolutely mind-boggling with the technology that's available these days and the automations that are available. That's like the future is very ripe. So I've joined recently, and we've been having some fun conversations about Enagic. And yeah, just here today was kind of in the neighborhood, so to speak, and wanted to see if there was anything, you know, any way we can chat more about sales, and just consider me a resource for the weekend if you guys want to ask any questions. So objection handling, frames, all this, like I'm a nerd about this kind of stuff, so I will talk your ear off about it if you let me. So, yeah.
Yeah, so after 8 years, you finally joined the organization.
Finally.
Finally. Yeah. And do you want to explain before people are already thinking about some questions now? But before that, do you want to talk about the potential you can see, because you have the high ticket background, the high ticket nature within you, then seeing Enagic, the commissions, the duplication, the automation, like why did you now get involved, and what can you see going forward?
Okay, yeah, so there's two things that are really exciting for me jumping into this world now. One is emerging markets, and two is AI. So on the emerging market side, I know most of you guys are working in Europe. I live in Mexico. I spent a lot of time in Latin America and South America. And I didn't know this until recently, but I had thought that maybe those markets had been relatively tapped. And then I started talking to people that are working in Enagic in Latin America, which there's not a lot of them, apparently. But funny enough, you know, Latin America is one of the places on the planet that needs good water the most. South America needs great water. They need water filtration. They need this product. And they're also really, really good at sales down there too. So what I started seeing is that there's just like so many untapped markets, unfulfilled potential that's, you know, obviously there's still opportunity in the US, in Europe, et cetera, but there's very ripe frontiers that I'm seeing, and that I plan to be building out teams in multiple countries to go out and handle different loads, different languages, et cetera. We're talking about doing some more business in Mexico. That's going to be a lot of fun. But emerging markets, number one, that's the most exciting thing for me personally. And then secondly, AI. So I'm sure I heard there was a lot of talk about, I wasn't here during Harriet's speech, but I heard automation is a really big thing. That gets me super excited, and I'm glad that everybody here is talking about automation. That's a good thing. On the AI front, so I've had the opportunity to work with some pretty intelligent, pretty forward-thinking AI engineers and specialists. One of my friends, he's an AI. He builds AI sales robots, and he's now creating everything from, like, there's men to women to old people to young people robots that are going out, and he can train a sales robot to do replicable sales calls on the fly. He could train one of those things in 72 hours. So yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So you can now have somebody, like a robot, can call another human being and pass the Turing test. Basically, it could finish a whole conversation and close a deal down without them knowing that it's a robot. That is happening today. So you can go from 50 phone calls a day to 10,000 phone calls a day. That's currently happening. So I really encourage you guys to explore this, and if you want to talk about it more, we can talk about it, but this is like the expansion capabilities are unreal. And what we're seeing in both, corporate America to coaching, programs, et cetera, to internet marketing businesses, is a lot of these companies, the ones that are utilizing it, they're growing like wildfire. The ones that aren't, they're not doing so well. So it's kind of like, it's time to explore these avenues to see, how you can incorporate AI and sales and automation into your business. Because if you don't, you might get left in the dust. That's a good thing, because you know about it now. On the other end of that, so besides just like setting appointments and doing phone calls, Heard from a guy that talked to Microsoft OpenAI, was having a unrecorded phone call with them, and he turned the camera off and he said, "Okay, check this out, this thing that we've been working on," and he popped up another guy in the Zoom room on the call. And he's like, I want you to meet Matt. He's from our team. Matt, say hi. Matt said, "Hey, how's it going? You know, what's up?" And then they started having a conversation with Matt, and he started arguing with Matt. And he was like, they were talking about business, like, "Hey, man, your performance isn't really what I thought it would be. I'm really not liking your attitude." Okay, and then Matt, he got so angry that he got up and left the room on the Zoom call. And when he left the room with the Zoom call, he turned to my friend. His name was Cam. He's like, "That was an AI bot. That was not a real person. That was a clone of a guy named Matt at our company at OpenAI." And it was like, it gave me chills when I heard about that. So there are people, not only can they do phone calls, but there's actually video clones of salespeople that are, it's already in development. It's not publicly accessible, but that's like a year or 2 years away, most likely. And yeah, so that's what excites me, is like, obviously, I consider myself more of an old school salesperson, where I'm like all about connection and empathy and like figuring out, diagnosing what a client needs. But I find the best salespeople are going to be the best AI robot trainers. So if you could figure out and navigate through this world where you're really mastering your own sales abilities, but then also being able to transfer that into replicable systems, then you're unstoppable, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's something Karen and I tested with another friend over in Mexico who runs an AI setting company. So setting calls or setting leads up on
appointment setters,
appointment setters,
yeah.
pretty much. And we had like a run through towards the end of last year. I was like, "Oh, this is good. This is good." Just a month later, like I could not tell the difference, only because I knew I was watching it, between an AI bot and a human that would just be calling me to set me up on a call, and it was incredible. I don't know where it's going to go, but
yeah,
we're going to test it out between us and see how it goes, because then you can go from, it was 650 dials a day per bot?
Yeah.
Maybe it's more now.
I mean, it's unlimited, really, but it's like, yeah, it's like the model that we're exploring is about 1,000 calls a day, something like that.
So does anyone have any questions when it comes to high ticket sales, or your sales processes, maybe calls, objections that are coming up often for you? Maybe you want to handle them. If you can think of the last 5 calls that you've had that hasn't ended up being a new distributor within your organization, what's come up? Because I would strongly recommend utilizing Gary's brain whilst it's here, and he hasn't downloaded it into an AI bot yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
I feel like my gap with my sales is finding this balance of being that.
Can you hear okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Maybe use your outdoor voice a bit more.
I find that my biggest gap in my sales calls feels like this dance of, being that empathic person to really. I feel like I go sometimes where I'm too empathic, and I feel like I could have really been more firm and more strong and really called them forward more. But then I've also been on the other side where I called them forward more, and then I feel like they don't think that I care. In fact, I've gotten that feedback a few times that I could be a bit too direct and a bit too firm. But then I also recognize when I try and be more empathetic, it goes a little bit on the other side, and I feel like I let them off the hook of their own bullshit. So I have this challenge of that balance and that dance of that. So I guess anything that you can share of what you've learned with that.
Okay. What kind of pre-work do you do before you get on a call? Like, how do you mentally prepare yourself?
Well, lately I've been doing anchoring, of just like anchoring into a state from the previous times that I have those sales just through a gesture, my own gesture, and getting into the energy. But other than that, I find that I need to be in a pretty grounded place. I step into that space of really just connecting to service, of really helping that person, rather than just making a sale or feeling that attachment. Like I really take myself from that place of having that mindset of just helping somebody make an educated decision.
Okay. Yeah, it's there's For more advanced salespeople, when I work with them, it's more, we talk a lot about frames. So if you're familiar, like different people employ different frames. Before they get on a call, it's like, okay, how are we going to set up this, the frame of the situation? So it helps a lot, obviously, the pre-frame, the marketing. I know you guys do a lot of like marketing, ads, etc. So my favorite frame is the doctor frame. And that is essentially, it's like before each call, it's like understanding, inside yourself that you're going to save this person's life. A doctor, like, and then this helps to disarm them as well when you think like this and they could feel it. So you never go into a doctor's office and say, and you're like, hey, I've had a cough, et cetera. And they go up and like, hey, have you tried this medicine? And they start trying to sell you some medicine. They never do that. You don't do that at a doctor's office. You go to the doctor's office, typically there's a nurse that checks you in. They ask you questions. They're like, okay, well, what's going on? What are the symptoms? Check your temperature, all of the stuff. And then they're like, okay, well, it sounds like you're a good candidate to go talk to our doctor. It sounds like something's going on with you. Bring him to the doctor, and then the doctor does the same thing. They ask questions of concern. They want to ensure that they're digging down to the pain, the root of the problem, right? I call it heaven and hell. You got to figure out what is their heaven, what is their hell. So you look for these symptoms. You make sure that you really, really deeply understand these symptoms, and then based off those symptoms, you make a diagnosis and say, well, you've tried this thing, that didn't really work. You tell me that you want a different job. You tell me that you want more freedom in your life and you want to be able to travel. And X, Y, and Z didn't work. All of this is what you've done. So based off my experience and my recommendation, I have something that, I can give to you that might be able to help you out with this. It's called your product, whatever your system is that you give to them, but you're giving a doctor's recommendation. You're not trying to sell them something. You're not even a friend at the end of the day. A doctor, they might be your friend, but their job is to save the life more than anything. So when you see it from that perspective, they feel it from that perspective. So I don't know if you tried that before, but that's one really helpful one that I've employed.
I have in a lot of ways, and I think
Yeah.
when I move up against, so it's basically at that point when I get to that space of that dance, the empathy of direct, because it depends on how open that person is.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes if they're not so open about their pain, maybe it's my own idea of how we're always told in the corporate world, don't ask how much people make. That's
Mm-hmm.
but you gotta ask these more sensitive, deeper type of questions to really go into that pain. So I think there's a little bit of resistance in that for me there, to where maybe I just project being a little bit too direct. But then also there's the part of, I guess just the empathy thing where even if I do go into that and then I am really direct with them, sometimes I feel this with some people. It might just be a personality clash or something like that, but where they just feel sold to, I guess.
Yeah. It's like pre-call, like at the beginning, of course, like, so I'm like really big on scripts. I don't know how many, raise your hand if you use a sales script when you sell. Ooh.
Put your hands up properly so we can
Probably,
see.
okay. That's about 1/5 of this room. Okay, so sales scripts, really, they seem very elementary for some people, but I do not know a salesperson that I would consider advanced or that makes, that sells more than $1 million in revenue per year that does not use a sales script every single time they sell. And obviously these are video and phone calls, et cetera. Like if you're in person, that's gonna be a little bit different. But the reason you use a script is because you're able to frame from the beginning, you're able to set out the rules of the call.
Yeah.
And typically that kind of what you're talking about when you get to the end and they're like, oh, well, why am I getting sold to? It's like if you set up a frame for it each time, like a script, and you're able to say, okay, well, this is what we're gonna do today. You're in my office. We're gonna talk about X, Y, and Z. You came to me, and there's something going on with you. So for me to be able to help you, you have to tell me what's going on with you. You have to tell me what your pain is. Unless you do that, there's no reason for us to be here, and you might as well leave. That's my second favorite frame, called the reverse sell, because you start to actually get them to sell to you, because you show that you care so much. Your time is valuable. You've worked with thousands of people. You need to make them tell you why they should be in your office.
Exactly.
So with the reverse sell, that's another. It's kind of expanding upon the doctor frame. So that could be helpful for you. And I would love to see what kind of script you're using as well.
Actually, I'm about to actually get on a call with a new platform that I'm working with, and they give you the scripts. And I actually have, I've gotten very, very brief, super like simple scripts, and then I've more kind of led with intuition through it. But I was about to actually ask you because the reason why I'm a bit resistant to scripts is because I have led so much of my intuition, but obviously that's not really doing as well as it could be because my
Yeah.
conversion rates really are not the greatest on my calls. But I don't know. I'm like, well, what if they see me looking at the thing and you can tell I'm reading it, or I don't know. Even typing notes or something during it, I
Yeah.
feel like it takes away from me being present with them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, scripts are, so obviously, if you've done this 100 times, you're not going to need to look and to refer to the script as much. But what a script allows you to do, when you have a repeatable process, it allows you to measure the process. It allows you to tinker with the process. So when you're doing something the same way every time, and then you could change it, and then you could change it, it's like picking a lock. If you start over on the combination every time, then it's kind of you're just luck at that point. But if you're able to, build a system that's repeatable and to try it again and again, then you start to get, you learn from that. You learn every single time as a learning experience rather than just luck. But I do hear what you're saying. You don't want to disengage. I mean, usually half of my calls and half of my team's calls, they're looking at us like it's on Zoom. They can't see you looking at it like you're looking at a camera. If it's their face that's beneath that camera, or if it's a script beneath that camera. Yeah, so
I'm going to be super coachable about this, and it's great you're here literally right before my call. So thank you.
we could talk about it, yeah.
Also, say if you think, like what Harry was teaching this morning, she has a team. I think she said 8 people are doing her calls. I'm not sure if they have scripts or not, but I know Kerry managed teams, big sales teams, with scripts, and maybe you using your intuition gets good results. But as you scale and you want to bring on more people to do your calls for you, you can't just say, right guys, use your intuition, off you go.
Yeah, and I want to be really clear. Yeah.
But is that
Yeah.
system scalable?
Totally. And I want to be really clear on that. Like, intuition is great. Please use intuition.
Right.
But write your intuition down. What does that look like in a system format on a script? Because something you're doing is right, and you don't want to miss the thing that you're doing right just because you show up and you're like maybe a little tired that day. You want a repeatable process that you could then, for yourself and then pass on to your team as well. So.
Monica?
Yeah.
Thank you. This is so valuable, and like I do jump on calls for my team up to 4A and try to teach them to do their own sales calls. We don't have scripts. I'm good at closing sales, but how would you if I would do a script for my team or for people then above 4A that are taking on calls? Where do I start? I don't know anything about this, honestly. I'm just doing sales. And then they learn from how I do it. That's how they learn, by being on the calls together with me. And that's how they learn to handle objections, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so there's a few different.
I write down how I usually do it because
Yeah.
if I look at my calls, they're quite similar. Like you said, I always start with, okay, what brought you here? Why are you here? In a way, to learn about them.
Mhm.
And then I'm not afraid of actually closing. Okay, are you ready to get started? Are you ready to take the next step? Yeah, where would you start?
So with your specific situation, there's 2 things that you could do. One is a cheat. It's a hack that I've been using a lot lately. I would take your calls, record them, especially the ones that you close deals on. Take the transcript from that, upload it to ChatGPT, and say, ChatGPT, create me a sales script. You could do that. So that's that's a pretty easy one. Obviously, it's going to be a little messy, and you can clean it up manually. But that is a repeatable process. If you've done it, have at least 10 data points for the AI, like 10 sales calls, 10 scripts where you successfully closed a deal, and then it'll synthesize those 10 calls and create a script for you. I have a framework that I use time and time again. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, I could run through that, in detail, depending on how much time we have.
That was going to be my question. Yeah.
A framework. Okay. Yeah. So I could whiteboard.
Whiteboard.
Yeah. Do that. Ooh.
Just a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Do you have to transcribe yourself, or is there a way to transcript your AI?
You should be able to use like, there's one called Fathom. I think Zoom these days actually transcribes for you, and you can go to the recording, you can copy the transcript and upload it that way. So,
It's like the teachers again.
yay. Yeah. ABCs, classic. Let's do it. Marker. Okay.
The camera's over there.
Cameras, oh, we got a camera over here. Okay, so I'll just write on this side. So this is called the bridge framework. Yeah, it's the bridge framework. It's not on the internet. It's actually one that I've learned through word of mouth through some really, really successful salespeople that I've worked with directly. So start with W, or Weeble is the acronym, right? Don't forget that. W is welcome. So that's the first 5 minutes of the call is always the same. You build a little report, you say, okay, hey, how you doing, where you from, how's the weather, all of that. You connect with them, you build tribe alignment, that's the W. You also want to set the frame of the call, like kind of like what you were saying earlier. It's like you want to tell them, okay, we have 45 minutes for this call. Do you have a hard exit? Do you have enough time? You're not going to ghost me in 5 minutes because you get freaked out or something? Okay, we have 45 minutes. Okay, so what I'm going to do on this call is I'm going to ask you some questions to better understand what you're looking for. Based off those questions, I'm going to invite you to work with me or not. If you're appropriate, then I'll go ahead and invite you to work with me. I'll tell you about what we do. I'll give you some details. We can talk about prices, things like that, about the product, a number of things. But not until I figure out that you're actually a good fit to work with me. Then you start the call. And they say, okay, they agree. The milestone there is they agree they have time for the call. They have time to be there. And they agree to allow you to run the show. You are the boss. This is your office. So the I, next one, that's investigate. So you need to investigate what is their heaven and what is their hell. Figuring out, obviously, people that are jumping on trying to buy the products that we are selling here, they're going to be looking for some kind of lifestyle change. They're looking to solve problems in their family. Like I've had people buy products from me where their heaven was, being a millionaire, living on the beach. For some people, it's having more time to spend with their kids. For others, it's just being able to look at themselves in the mirror and say, I'm actually doing something with my life, and this is significant for me. Hell, investigating that after you figure out what their heaven is, like what do you want? What do you want? What are you trying to achieve? You investigate hell. Hell is really powerful. It's what is their pain? What are they experiencing that is driving them to take action? Without hell, you don't make a sale. You don't close people. People run away from discomfort more than they go towards the feeling of pleasure in heaven. I've had people tell me that they were suicidal, and that was their hell. They were like literally, trying not to kill themselves. Running away from an abusive relationship, running away from poverty. Whatever it was, running away from a kid that looks at them like they're a loser. You figure out what this is. It's not always comfortable, but it is powerful for, both the sale and for that person, that they have awareness of what heaven and hell looks like for them. After you distinguish what that is, go to B, and that's you build a bridge. It's a number of different questions you could use, but it's like, what brings you to this call? Like, why are you here? Why are you with me today? Like, what drove you to take action, to jump on a call to talk about whatever we're talking about? That's usually a good place to start. I like to tell them to paint me a picture. It's like, okay, 2 years from now, you have the life of your dreams. You're living a 10 out of 10. What does that look like? Tell me every detail of that world for you. And then you get their heaven. They give you it. And if you're not sure, you say, tell me more. Tell me more about that. You give clarifying questions. And then you jump into hell. Then the flip side of that is usually hell. So it's like, what's stopping you from getting to heaven? What is the thing that you're facing right now? Is it low self-esteem? Is it not enough money? Is it, a really annoying boyfriend? Whatever it is, you figure out what it is. Because you're going to help them build a bridge from heaven to hell. And the bridge is going to be what you're selling. Right? So the way that could be is you'll say, okay, well, based off everything you've told me here, and you really need to understand what they're going through. If you don't understand what they're going through, they're not going to trust you, they're not going to like you, and they're going to run away. So your power as the doctor, in the doctor frame, is being able to summarize and truly understand their experience of what they're having. Then, once they see that and you got that box checked, then they're like, okay, I can talk to this person. We can go further. And then you go into building the bridge. So you say, okay, well, you just told me that you really don't want to be working at a dead-end job anymore. You want to travel, you want to see the world. And you told me that you've tried a number of things and you keep hitting your head against the wall, and that if you don't do something soon, you're afraid that you're just going to be this way forever, and that you're going to die old and alone and sad, and nobody's going to love you, and X, Y, and Z. Obviously, you want to be empathetic when you're doing this. So you figure that out. So it's like, based off what you've told me, it sounds like we could work together. I've worked with a lot of people in the past that have experienced the same symptoms, the same situation that you're talking about, and I would love to be able to help you. A couple of things I want to check with you first before I can do that. One, can you put in the work? This is where the reverse sell comes in. Are you able to do this? Like, this requires time. I don't want to work with anybody that's going to waste my time. This requires time. You're going to have to put in effort. There's going to be an investment involved. You're going to have to figure out a way to get the investment. All of these things, and you get them to say, okay, yeah, I'm willing to do this. This is your golden opportunity right there. That's when you're really laying it on them. You're like a bouncer at a door. Like, why should I let you in my club? Why should you be here? That kind of thing. Once they check all the boxes, then you say, okay, well, let me explain to you what we do, what I can do for you. And then you explain how your product is going to get you from hell to heaven.
How would you explain that with this specific business?
Okay, yeah, well, you want an opportunity to make money. You want to do it in a fun way. You want to do it in a healthy way that impacts people's lives, that changes people's lives. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you the system that we got. And then you explain your system in detail, be it, I know some of you have coaching programs, and that's your main lead-in, whereas others are just directly selling the product that you have. Whatever it is, you want to tie every single piece of that bridge to their heaven and hell. So it's like every single, it's called ammo firing. So you've collected, then you unobstruct the bridge, then they're going to be like, once you get to that other side, you're like, okay, well, how do you feel about working together? How do you feel about moving forward? They'll say something like, well, I would love to, but I know what my husband's going to say. I know what he's going to say. He's going to say, this is stupid, I shouldn't do this. Or they're going to say, well, I would love to do this, but I don't know about the money. I don't know, yeah, I probably don't have enough cash for this. So unobstructing the bridge is when you start to you pre-objection handle. Before you've even talked about price, before you've even talked about, actually closing the deal. They're going to tell you everything that's going to stop them from giving you money right then and there. And you can even ask them that. So, okay, well, would there be anything stopping you from working with me? And you could even sound a little impatient about it. You could even say well, you sound great, this sounds awesome. What's going to stop you from being able to do this? They'll tell you every single problem that they'll ever have. They'll tell you that, okay, well, my mom won't let me do this, my spouse won't let me do this, X, Y, and Z. And then this is the part that they mess up a lot. They try to solve their problem for them, or they try to say, well, did you tell your spouse that you can make a lot of money? Don't do that. You sit on the same side of the table. This is what I call a trusted advisor frame. It's when you're next to them, not across from them. You sit on the same side of the table, and you say, well, one, is this really a problem? Is it really your spouse, or are you nervous about this? You isolate the objection. Then you go into the objection and you can say, well, what's going to make this work for you? Don't forget that question. What's going to make this work for you? You have them solve their own problem. You don't sit there and try to pepper them with, with all these gadgets and all these features of what you do about how that's going to help them. You say, well, what's going to make your spouse say yes to this? Let's talk about this. Let's figure it out. How are we going to get him to say yes? Okay, well, this is for sure the problem. It's definitely your spouse. It's definitely your husband. Why would he be opposed to you doing this? Okay, well, let's problem solve together. Usually, that's the most advanced level of what we're talking about here. But if you just ask that one question, well, what's going to work? How are you going to make this work? They'll be like, well, I can get a credit card, from my bank. I could talk to my grandma. She owes me some money. That kind of, you figure it out with them. And a lot of people, what they do is they trigger sales resistance there. They say, by doubling down on what the product feature is, they're like, well, have you actually thought about this? Are you actually ready for this? And it's solve it with them. Does that make sense?
So you jump
Okay.
from doctor to trusted advisor.
Yeah, doctor to trusted advisor. You're like, okay, well, you sit on the same side of the table. You're like, okay, well, sounds like you have a problem. Let's look at it. Let's put it on the wall and figure it out. You don't say, okay, well, if you don't do this, you're never going to change your life. You don't try to scare them, or you solve the problem with them. And then land land them on the other side. So when you land them on the other side of the bridge, that's just ensuring that you have your stuff together and that you have your closing procedures in place. I was talking to an Magic person recently, and I was like, if I'm gonna close a person, if I'm going out tonight and I meet a person at an event and I wanna close them on the spot, are you ready to close them on the spot in 5 minutes or less? And it was not good. It was like the order form, all these things were all a mess. Like I had to go watch a video immediately. It's like, you want this part, the enrollment, the taking of cash, to be as seamless as possible. Landing them on the other side of the bridge where they sign up, they get their registration in, and it's like a 5-minute process. And then you should be doing pretty good at that point. So, does this system make sense, guys? Okay.
It's not a 5-minute process. That's the part that needs, in my opinion, to become a lot more seamless.
I agree. I would love to talk about that because I'm selling this stuff right now, and I'm like, why are we not closing this in 2 minutes? You know what I mean? And there's things to fix there. There's obviously tech limitations, et cetera, but there's also a lot of ways that just through a seamless, repeatable sales process, etching that away, that we could fix that. So.
I have a question, Gary.
What's up?
What's the most important variable when closing sales?
A lot of people, they say pain is like figuring out like what is their hell, because with no pain you don't buy. Like if you don't have a problem, you don't want to buy things. I would agree that that's really important, but for me it's always the frame. It's like when they get into the sales environment, into the sales conversation with you, what is the frame? Are you a person of authority? Are you in a position to be telling this person what to do with their life? And actually ask yourself, like, do you have your stuff together enough to be able to advise this person on making a significant purchase? Because if you don't, then you shouldn't be on the call. But if you do, if you have that frame, you do feel like you know that what you're selling is legitimate, and you know that you're actually going to help this person and change their lives, and you believe that with conviction, if you have that frame, then you talk about the pain. But for me, it's always, what's the encasing of the situation? Yeah.
What about for people who do have that belief, maybe they haven't got to that place yet, because in an Magic, a lot of people start to do their own sales calls when they're not in that non-painful position yet, where they're really getting off the ground and making that first few sales, but they're not living that lifestyle yet.
Right.
They're not in that.
How do you fake it till you make it? Is that what you're saying?
Fake it till you
Yeah.
make it.
That one does take some inner game. So I was saying the reverse sell frame, like when you get them to sell to you, you can do that acutely, and then you can also do that from a mindset perspective. There's specific questions you can do to trigger that to get them to sell to you. But when reverse selling, it's the key, I guess the key variable to remember for you is that your time is valuable. You're gonna die. If you don't treat your time valuably, it's gonna be a waste, and you're not gonna be making money, you're not gonna be doing, not gonna be seeing your vision out. And that, typically, like to be able to go into these spaces and to be serious and to be taken seriously and to have that conviction, that's what you have to do, is you gotta know, like, my time is valuable. This person needs to rationalize why I should spend time even talking to them. Doesn't matter where you are in your journey. Doesn't matter how much money you make today, you do have time on this planet and you will die. So knowing that, like having that level of seriousness in every call and every sales interaction, they'll feel it. They'll get that vibe from you. They'll know this person is not here to screw around. Maybe you're giddy and you're excited and it's your first round of sales calls. But if you go in with that like knowing in your heart and soul that like, this is my time, these people, need to respect my time, they will respect your time. It will come out that way. It's when you don't respect your time that they feel that and then they start treating you like you're not a big deal. So go ahead.
I'm wondering how necessary it is to build a bridge when you have a very thorough discovery process.
When you have a thorough discovery process.
Yeah, so for example, there's lots of ways that they're teaching people to do their calls, but they actually have like a presentation. Sorry. The platform that I'm in right now, they have a lot of different ways that they teach people how to do the calls. There's like the script, and they also have a presentation that they will show people, but it basically is really reiterating what's in the discovery process. I feel like it's redundant, but
yeah.
with the bridge, that's build a bridge is when I ask questions if they have questions, and that's where I kind of fill in the gaps of their understanding of that process that they may or may not have missed in the discovery process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like, so you're saying like, is it necessary to, like build a bridge is like, if you put this in simple terms, it's the presentation.
Right.
It's like, it's okay, well, what are you selling? What are the features? What are the benefits of what you're doing? So in the bridge, as people get more advanced in their abilities, I would say it's way, you can cut down a lot on that portion. You don't have to like song and dance about every bell and whistle of your coaching program, et cetera. What is important, like the most important factor there, is that it's tied into the discovery. It can't just be like a one size fits all, this is what we do, this is why we do it, X, Y, and Z. It has to be what's going on with your prospect's life and how exactly your thing connects directly to what's going on with them, their heaven and hell.
So you'd be basically
Yeah.
reiterating how it is you do what you do, but tailored to specifically.
Yeah, and that's one thing too, is like, this is the same every time. You should have like the similar bullet points, like a script. And it doesn't have to be a word for word script, by the way. You need just the bullet points of your script. And this should be the same every time, but it should feel customized for the person every time, in the sense that it's tied to their pain points. Do you have a question?
Yeah, so because many of us work with the discovery process where it sounds to me like we're showing them the bridge even before we had the chance to get on the call with them and
Yeah.
understand the heaven and hell.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you suggest then to maybe tweak or switch a bit, or how can we make sure that, because of course like it's a video presentation, so they get a one
Yeah.
size fits all presentation in there, and then we jump on the call and make sure they understood all the details. But at that point they have already decided like, okay, do I like this bridge? And they need to like, or what they do automatically is kind of like connecting the dots without us being present in that specific moment. So do you have like any tips how to make this a smoother process probably, or?
Yeah, it would be necessary to see your specific process, but I think so like, you can break this out into multiple sales scenarios, you know. From my understanding, you probably show somebody an information video and they say, okay, this is cool, I want to learn more, and then they jump on a call with you. In that scenario, it's the frame of the beginning, like the frame of the call, okay, why are you getting on this call? Typically, what I see people do a lot of the times, like it's an information call. Oh, you can go learn more about what we do. Those don't really land so often in my experience. I've never seen those work so well. It's like if they get on for information, typically what they're going to do is they're going to get information and then they're going to leave. They're not going to buy anything. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but yeah, that's typically the way people frame it. They're like, you have more questions, go ask these questions. Whereas it's a much more powerful thing to say, well, if you're interested in this, you can apply to work together. What does that look like? I can tell you the benefits of what it looks like working together, and you know that's what the video can show. You can show the what. You could say, you know, living on the beach, making a lot of money, but you don't want to show them the how you get there. You don't want to show them the bridge before you get them on a sales conversation, right? Because you're pretty much you know, singing to an empty room if you're giving people bridges, if you're giving people solutions to problems you don't even know if they have. You need to figure out what their problems are to tie the solutions directly to it. Does that make sense? Is that remotely helping you? Or?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it makes totally sense. But I still, because I know like how the process is structured for us right now, I just know that they see a great before we get on the call, so just trying to find like a new solution for that.
Yeah, we can map it out if you want. We can chat, yeah. Question?
I actually have two, and it's more related to objection handling.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is more, how would you handle a person where you see clearly that it's masking, I'm saying he because usually this is more with men when it comes to me, is masking actually the real objection. So
Okay.
he brings other objections, but the real objection is the self-doubt, the not believing on his the own confidence, and like because we run on a social media,
Mm-hmm.
so they see, okay, I'm seeing these, so I need to be these, but I don't like to be these. So how would you
Do you have an example of like a specific example of when they've used an objection and masked a real objection?
I have this friend actually, he was the first one to know, more or less like you, with Ryan, he was the first one to know that I was in a business. He showed a lot of objections, he asked me questions, and along the way he saw, yeah, it's a good business. Eventually he signed up. When it came, he absorbed all the videos, the discovery process Rebecca was mentioning, and when it came to take the step, he backed off.
Okay.
Because I already know him as a person. I know that it's like lack of confidence and showing up himself because he really is influenced by the opinion of others and so on. But he brought the prices. Then I was like, man, you have money, so don't come with the prices. Then he went to see the numbers. Yeah, I need to see. First have a plan to have all figured out, and I told him, like, you have the numbers in front of you, like you have that
Yeah.
sale, so
You were appealing to his logic. Yeah.
objections. And when I eventually I confronted him, but then like the point that you say this is the real objection, like it doesn't mean that they are going to move forward, you know, like
Right.
how do you handle it? Even if you tell them it's like it's you have, and I faced also the same, like I lacked self-confidence in the beginning. I couldn't show up in camera. I didn't take my pictures of myself, but still, that's not enough. Like because I'm a woman. And
Yeah, yeah. I mean, tried and true is always isolate and solve. So you figure out, okay, like, says, well, I don't have the money. Sorry, this is not for me. It's like, okay, well, is it really the money? Is that really what's going on here? Or is there something else that's happening? I mean, and if you've done the frame, if they respect you and you've treated them appropriately throughout the call, and you've ensured that they've treated you appropriately, you can ask a question like that and get an honest answer. You say, okay, well, you're telling me that it's the money. My intuition is saying that it's not the money. Like, what's actually going on here? And they're like, no, it is actually the money. And you're like, okay, well, it's the money. So if the money was solved, we'd be able to get this closed today, right? And then that question right there, that's when you catch them. And they're like, okay, well, if this is solved, then we can move forward, right? Okay, so then you sit down, you pull up your sleeves, and you're like, okay, well, how are we going to get this money problem solved? What do we got to do here? Do we got to open up a credit card? Do we got to talk to a family member? Whatever. So you isolate, you validate, ensure like this is actually the objection, and then you solve the objection. With your friend, what probably happened is, yeah, he had something going on deep down inside that was preventing him from moving forward. And what you were doing, he was telling you things, they're called smoke screens. He was giving you smoke screens, and you were answering the smoke screens is what you were doing. You were appealing to his logic. He was like, well, I don't have money, or you said the lack of confidence. It's like what you should have been doing is ensuring that that's actually what's the right thing to be talking about, dissecting the situation. Is that helpful? Or?
yeah, more on the side of like how would you then what would you suggest as a man to tell them to make them comfortable to take this
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's difficult. Like, especially, I don't know how to sell as a woman to a man, but it's, yeah, like you just want to, like at that point, I would just keep with them, especially if you know them. Like there's a lot of friends that I know you guys are selling to, et cetera. And that's like, take them for a coffee, whatever you got to do, get back in the sales conversation. You're like, what's really going on? His name's Eric. Hey, Eric, what's really going on? Like, tell me what's happening. You said it's this, but I know that's like, that doesn't seem like the case. And if it is, I want to be able to help you solve this. Like, how can we figure this out? And just keep doing that. It's like you got to keep threading the needle, threading the needle, threading the needle. And then at the end of the day, sometimes you just need to let people have time. That's like, you'll never hear me saying that to my salespeople, but sometimes you just need to step back and say, okay, well, I've did everything I could do here for you. I'm going to give you some time. We can talk about this again later. If you want, you can come find me, and then we can figure things out. It's funny, so I pay a coach a lot of money every month to work with them, and I recommend everybody in here should be working with a coach in some way, shape, or form. I pay him a lot of money every month, like a ridiculous amount of money every month. And I'm really hard to sell, to close down on a sell. When he closed me, it took like 3-4 months, about 4 calls, and it was like
8 years.
it took you 8 years, yeah. Yeah, and it took like 3 or 4 calls, and every time he was like, man, like let's go. Like, I don't feel like you're ready right now. Let's talk in 2 weeks. And he was the one saying that. So it's kind of like the reverse sell as well. And this dude, he works with like executives in like very big companies, the guy I work with. He's not even on the internet. What really turned me on and what got me closed on the deal with him was that he was like, yo, my time is valuable. I can't let everybody that wants to work with me. So you don't seem like you're ready right now. If you're like when you feel like you're ready, we can have another conversation. We can do this thing again, and then we can work together when we work together. So that's the reverse sell. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had another one. Sorry.
Yeah.
So if someone tells you like, I really like to commit to things 100%, and right now I'm finishing this project, how would you handle that?
With like competing obligations.
Yeah, because usually people don't take the step, and then I find it really hard to bring them back.
Okay.
But I shouldn't be the one, but like it's more in the follow-up kind of.
Yeah. Starting out with isolating, identifying, rationalizing, making sure that that is the actual objection. There's a few different ways you can handle that. If you've done discovery, which that's what this area is, if you've done discovery well, you can do some time dilation with them. You can say, well, you're telling me now that you need to put this off for a couple of months, 3-4 months, etc. But let's backtrack 4 months ago. Now, if you would have done this 4 months ago, where would you be today? What would that look like? And you have them paint a picture, like how would life be different for them today if they would have made the decision 4 months ago? And you say, okay, so you're telling me you want to wait this amount of time to get this solution, to get this, this result in your life. What are the costs of that? Like, what are the tangible costs that you're going to be accruing by not making this decision today? It's just like, you don't push them, is what I'm saying. You investigate, just like a doctor would. You get to the root of the problem. You go deeper. You ask another layer of whys, and then you truly understand their situation. You get them to tell you why they should do it today. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a little more advanced, but yeah.
When you're doing stuff like that, do you almost feel like you're playing an actor? Because you know what you want to say. You know what the line is almost. But you've got to deliver it in a way of like confusion or...
Yeah, there's some tonality that you pick up over time, naturally. I've been an actor before. I've worked on tonality professionally and all of that. Like, funny enough, sales is I find it to be much more organic than acting. Acting is fake. Sales, you're changing people's lives. You're working directly with a human being. So in those moments, it's like, it's always going back to your frame. It's like, I'm on this call because I believe that I believe that there is a possibility that your life can be changed by this product. That's not a joke, And if I'm spending my time with you here today, we're gonna have a serious conversation about this. If not, just get off the call and I'll talk to somebody else, So when you bring that proper frame, that level of seriousness, the respect for yourself, your time, and their time, then it's not a scam. I know he's putting in the work and he's making things happen. But yeah, if you sign up for this and then you sit on your ass all day every day and don't do anything, yeah, it's a scam. Because you're going to be scammed because you're scamming yourself is what's going on. So you can be a little more pushback, and that's what I mean. It's like when you respect your time and yourself, show people. It's like, put in the work. It won't be a scam. Put in the effort. You'll make money. In the back, yeah.
Yes. At the end of the call, sometimes people are all fired up, they are really excited. You build the bridge with them, but then the call ends and they get back to their head or to other people around them, and you kind of lose the momentum and the excitement and engagement.
Yeah.
What are your best advices to end the call in a way that keeps them engaged and committed to what they told you?
Landing, like I was saying before, it's super important that if you've done all this work, you want to close the deal on the call. I've closed, the most I've ever called in one call was $80,000 on a phone call. Took about an hour. And I didn't even expect that to happen. I was really surprised by that. But took $80K from a client on a call. And it was because I had my credit card processor ready and up on the screen before they ever said yes. And I was able to, they were excited, they were stoked, they wanted to work together. We closed the deal down, I got them registered in the program I wanted to register them in, and at that point it was a done deal, And then, so like what you want to do is you want to make sure you close the deal, get the confirmation. If it's a signature, if it's a deposit, you want to get that as soon as possible on the call. Because yeah, people, they get in their own way. They start telling stories in their head and they lose confidence, et cetera. This will happen. And if you don't get them confirmed, then it's on you when they start doing that. Once you land them, once you do confirm them and get them, the buy-ins all there, they've gotten out of their own way, they're ready to move forward with a new version of their life, give them homework. No matter what it is, it's like, hey, there's this book, go read this today, and then tell me about it afterwards. Tell me about it next week. Usually, I think a lot of you have pretty sophisticated programs for your clients, so like, tell them to go do step 1, step 2, step 3. But you want to take advantage of that heightened energy, that heightened nervous system, by funneling it into action in some way. Cool. Okay, I think yeah?
This is obviously quite a big topic.
Yeah.
You spend your time going into people's systems and working everything out and developing it, putting it apart, and running teams. What can we do as individuals and a larger collective to understand this whole process, develop this whole process deeper, better? Like, I see people who come to this business who've got sales experience,
Mm-hmm.
and it pays dividends. It expands into every bit of their business because they know
Right.
how to talk to people. And I think the communication aspect is part of it, but actually specific sales stuff seems to be a really powerful thing. Would you advise people to go and actually get a job doing sales? Is that the best environment to do it?
So I think what you're asking, how to increase your abilities in the fastest way possible, the fastest, most efficient way possible. One, get a script. Like whatever script it is, just use a script. And even if you go away from the script on the call, it doesn't matter. Just you need something that's a repeatable process that you can edit every time. And you say, okay, that one thing that I said there, that really worked. Change this little thing, and you need to be learning from every interaction that you're having. A lot of people, what they do is, and they go and I know a lot of people do it, it's like, I don't like to bash the intuition people because I'm all about using intuition, but it's like, they don't get to learn as much because they don't have data that they're collecting. They're not seeing this person closed and this person didn't, and why, So script is 1. 2, record your calls, record every call. And especially in the beginning, until you feel confident doing what you're doing, you've landed, a few dozen sales, you need to record and study the heck out of your calls. You need to do it with a group. So every call, like, there's some people might be hesitant. I know in the UK and like Germany and stuff, they're really weird about recording calls. But typically you can do that and just say, hey, we do this because we like to, it's for like quality purposes, et cetera. But get an AI recorder, invite them into your Zoom room, whatever you got to do, and then go watch the call right after the call and study everything. Even if you don't know what you're looking at, even if you have no idea what's going on in that call, you start to see patterns. The more you do it, the better you get at. So a lot of times when I have a green salesperson that's like super excited, they've never done this before, I go make them take at least 50 to 100 terrible calls, terrible prospects, really, really low lead quality, because that gives them the muscle. They start building the muscle up, And then every one of those calls, they have to watch them and they have to tell me what they did on the call. What took place, what was good, what was bad. And then I have them review really advanced calls. I have them go look at my salespeople that are killing it and tell me what that guy did or that girl did on the call that was really great, what was not so great. It's a numbers thing, but recording as well as repeatable processes that gets you over the learning curve a lot faster.
Does anyone here reflect on their calls or take notes afterwards?
Don't lie. Okay, reflect on your calls.
And you put your hands up properly, so you can see. Okay.
Yeah, and it's the ones that don't close that you need to watch the most. Because anybody can have a great, a good luck sales call where they just had a ton of money lying around. They're like, here you go. But it's the ones that almost close but don't, and the ones that almost don't close but do, that you want to be checking out. Like that's where the magic is. So watch those calls, study those calls, figure out why they're great, figure out why they're not great. And if you can't record for some reason, immediately after the call, take some notes. I know it's probably the last thing on some of your minds, but that is a powerful exponential move to increase your abilities.
Okay, we'll take 2 more questions.
2 more.
Karen?
Go ahead, man.
I want to expand on the not being able to close them on the call.
Okay.
At the
Yeah.
Do 2 calls or how come?
I would, like me personally, if I went in and I was like consulting on this situation, I would do everything possible to land them as soon as possible, to get all of their money as soon as possible. Be that, like I've been on the phone when people are transferring money from bank accounts before. I've been on the phone when somebody called their mom and got money from their mom and got their mom's credit card number. And if you have the right frame, if you're their friend and you're helping them solve a life problem, that's not a big deal. It's only you that makes it creepy, you know? But if you're like, hey, okay, so you need to transfer money? Cool. What I can do, I can just sit here, I got some stuff to do. I'll put you on mute so I don't hear you talking about your, you know, your social security number, and go ahead and get it transferred. And then after that, we can get you registered. We get the process figured out. So that's one thing. Land them on the call. And if you cannot, if it's like, okay, well, they got it, it's going to take a week, it's going to take 2 weeks, try to get some kind of commitment, even if it's like, you know, and you could set this up. You could set up a deposit link on Stripe and say, okay, well, you say you want to do this. I've seen a lot of people say they want to do this, and then they, you know, they wander off, and then their mom tells them they're an idiot, X, Y, and Z. And I want to make sure that you don't turn into that. So what we could do, and what you could do to prevent this for yourself, so you can give me a $500 deposit right now. It's a $500 deposit. It's going to be returnable. If you don't do this, I can give it back to you. But I want you to have skin in the game for the decision and the change that you're about to make in your life. So get them on a deposit if you have to.
Sorry, just a quick question, Gary. We
Yeah.
don't actually do deposits.
Okay.
So like all up front. Pardon? Oh yeah, I was just thinking now, like, we have the ability to put a deposit down with an agent, so we could do that while someone else is going to get their financing. And maybe you guys are doing that already. I just thought of it now that we've not done that this whole time. But that's something that we could do, like put a deposit down with an agent, and then while someone's waiting for their financing, and then send the rest. Is that possible, Paolo?
Like a down payment?
Yeah.
I would have to check. I don't see anything in it.
Yeah, because that
There
would
you go.
help with Kerry's method. And another thing, when we were starting out, Nate and I, when we were doing calls back to back, something that I used to do, I used to know moneysupermarket.com in the UK so well that I'd be like, okay, you want to do this? Cool. I can help you walk through and see if you can get credit cards if you want. And I just, without even doing the screenshot, nothing, I was like, right, you put this, and this, and then helping someone go through that process whilst they're fired up, whilst they're engaged, and whilst they're anchored to what they actually want to go and achieve. And I was just thinking, one of those people here is a lot of the reason they're not, I don't know if they're doing the business anymore, but they got themselves to 682, and I remembered that call when you were saying that before. So
Yeah.
actually walking people through that process and having the confidence to do that is huge. And I don't, does anyone walk people through financing whilst on the call? Cool. So for those who don't, how would you speak to that? Because everyone knows about financing, but probably either go and find it themselves. So how could someone have the confidence to walk someone through those financing options?
Yeah, I mean,
Or the objection that would come up, or like, is that
Yeah.
weird that I'm going to do this on the internet with someone?
yeah, well, if you do have a recording at that point, occasionally we'll go ahead and turn the recording off. It's like, so hey, we're about to talk about, you know, numbers and credit cards. I'm going to go ahead and turn the recording off. Don't always do that. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, you can walk them through, like, they'll say, okay, well, I don't know how to do this. Okay, well, you want to do financing, because I have a friend named Ryan. He did financing. He got a credit card for $10,000. He now makes a lot of money, you know. So we could do that. Does that, you want to go down that path? Okay, because I can help you with that. What we'll do, I have a list of different options for you that's credit financing. Let's see if you qualify for these. You can open them up on your screen. I can open up mine. You can put in your details. You could do them. You could turn your camera off and go ahead and through a couple of these while we're still here. What you don't want to do is let them get off the call. Whatever you do, I mean, within reason. Try to keep them on the call and say, it's just like when your frame is actually a doctor and you're trying to save this person's life, you're not just going to like let them, okay, well, I'll talk to you later. Okay. You want to say, what do we got to do to figure this out? That's, in short, that's the answer, is you come from the mentality of like, well, what do we got to do? How do I help this guy that wants to change his life? And if that's, okay, we go through this list on a spreadsheet of finance options. Happy to walk you through that.
And this can often take longer than the scheduled call time. If you have half an hour, 45 minutes. A key question to ask Or let me ask you, what would be a key question to ask at the end if you haven't got to the financing part?
I asked him about the credit score.
Ask about credit score, but if you need to stay on for longer,
Can you stay on for longer?
can you stay on for longer?
Yeah.
Or you can flip it back and say, do you have anything scheduled immediately after this call?
Yeah.
Because people like to say no. Can you stay on for longer? No, not really. Do you have anything scheduled after this call? No. But that's actually a yes.
Good one. Good one. Yeah. It's like getting them to say yes. Also, another thing that you could do is you can apply a little bit of pressure with a reverse sell and say, so yeah, you're saying you don't have the money. You say you want to go do this. I don't really have a lot of time to be working with people. So I would really like to know if you're serious about this and you would like to be working with me. We can do this right now with credit financing. We could get a deposit in. We could do that because if you don't do this now, I mean, I don't want to apply any pressure, but it's like there might not be a chance to be working with me because I want to work with people that are serious about doing this, that are actually invested in this process. So if you are invested, let's talk about getting a deposit in. So does that help at all? Or yeah?
Yes.
Cool. And
Take another one or two.
these two. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm probably the oldest person in the room.
Yeah.
Just about. Well, I think I am. I qualify for myself. And I've been always in sales.
Say, you can decide for yourself. Right? Let people make their own decision up. We're at a point in the world where a lot of people are going one way, and there's a lot of us going in a completely different direction. So let people be, and just show them. Someone else had their hand up there before we close down. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just about the objection handlings. I think sometimes I feel like when they come with an objection, I'm on the opposite side, whereas seeing it from their side and working with it, with them through it, I think that approach is so much more like open-minded.
Yeah.
It's less like me versus you.
Yeah. It's like we're in this together. We actually want to get.
Actually, there's a thing I was going to draw to illustrate this. Can I? Okay.
One more page. One more page. Yeah.
This visual, when you have this visual in your head, it's really. I stole your marker, by the way. So usually when people they get on a call or whatever, a sales situation, this is what's taking place. Me versus you. Like they feel like this person takes themselves on, being scared, etc.
Yeah, I'm going to go. That's fucking awesome.
Today, Tarek was awesome. Harriet was awesome.
Jerry was awesome.
Be sitting at the table next to them with a problem. Mentally, that's what's going on in your head. So it's like, too often, people make this happen either through, just manifesting it because they're thinking about it and they're scared of the nervous energy. And it's, how do I get this person to give me their money? How do I get this person to, how do I get them to not think I'm taking advantage, et cetera? But what you want to do is figure out how to get on the same side of the table as them and then solve the problem. That's a useful one. I draw that all the time when I'm on a call.
An artist.
It's easy to forget.
Yeah. So if you want to take a picture of this. No, but thank you so much for doing this today, Kerry. That's been an incredible workshop. And if you put together any kind of resources, fire them over to me, and then we'll make sure everyone on the email list for the event will get the resources out. But I'd love to give you all, and let's give each other a huge round of applause for today. Bring the energy back up so you have enough to get back to your hotels and villas. Thank you so much, guys. I know this is really the work and the information that's going to change the face of your individual businesses, and then also the people in the future that are going to be joining your organization. So truly, thank you very much for showing up, putting in the work. I'll see you all tomorrow morning. Oh, what a day.